702.
Family Matters.
So on our Family Matters feature this morning, I want us to have a conversation about pushover parenting. How do we guard against being a pushover parent? Do you often find yourself giving into your child's pushing? Do you have maybe a weak resolve when it comes to sticking to your guns because you're either too tired to follow through or you seem to have forgotten why you were upset in the first place? Well, you could be a pushover parent. And maybe you can never enforce the rules and the regulations on your kid. Maybe you give in to requests of your child to avoid conflict. You find it difficult to discipline them. You want to be a good cop, so to speak. And I know there are many parents who admit to being a pushover parent because there are various reasons why a parent may allow themselves to be a pushover. And one of those reasons has to do with how the parent wants to be perceived, right? There are other parents who have no time to pay attention to their children, and that's why they allow that kind of thing to happen. What kind of a parent are you? Are you a pushover parent? And who has led to you? What has led to you being a pushover parent? I want you to share your experiences with us on 011-883-0702. Sometimes your own kids can see that and they start taking advantage of it. That, we know mom or dad is always going to give in. So they know how much to push until you are going to give in to their demands or their requests. How do you deal with that as a parent? You can give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice notes to share your thoughts with us. Adele Pillay is a life coach and parent trainer who's going to be guiding us through this conversation. Adele, thank you so much for making time. Good morning.
Hi, Clement.
Adele,
morning. It's a pleasure. Can you hear me? You're quite faint, yes. Clement.
Yeah, we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Ask Abel to just push up the audio so that you're also able to hear us clearly, Adele. Thank you so much for making time for us. I want us to start off with just defining what a pushover parent is. What do we mean when we talk of pushover parenting?
When we talk of, sorry, I can't hear.
Okay, let me do this. I'm going to go to the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. I think there's something wrong with the Zoom link, Adele. So I'm going to take, not headlines, but the break now. I'm going to take a quick ad break. It's 10 minutes after 11 o'clock. I'm going to ask for us to maybe reestablish that line, send Adele a new Zoom link. And then when we come back, hopefully that's sorted. Keep calling as well, or sending your own experiences. Maybe you know of parents in your household, in your social circle who are pushover parents. What have you observed about it, and what do you think has really led them to being a pushover? Or maybe you are the one who've realized how that is actually being taken advantage of by your own kids. How does it work? 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. It's 11 minutes now after 11 o'clock.
702.
Family Matters.
Right, it's 13 minutes now after 11 o'clock. On our Family Matters feature this morning, we're talking about how you should be guarding against being a pushover parent. Adele Pillay is an author and child trauma expert. We've got her on a better line now. And Adele, what I was asking you earlier is just to define to our listeners what a pushover parent is. What do we mean by pushover parent?
I think a pushover parent is one that feels that they don't have the responsibility of disciplining their children or being a safe space for them, that their children can make decisions which children aren't really able to do. Parenting is hard. It takes a level of responsibility and accountability for what happens in your home, for what you do. Your job as a parent is to protect your child and take on all the adult tasks of cooking, of cleaning. And so there isn't a shared responsibility in terms of that, especially when kids are still growing up. We're finding in care that a lot of parents are pushing their responsibilities onto their children. And so because the children have this enormous load of responsibilities, they have a big voice in their homes and they're starting to act like little adults because there isn't those clear boundaries.
So there's some parents who often argue that, well, I'm just being supportive to my child and not really a pushover. So what is that difference then between being supportive and being a pushover?
So I think there's a line between healthy parenting and dysfunctional parenting. And healthy parenting has a high level of predictability. As in, my parents are going to pay the bills, I've got a good place to go to. If I step out of line, there'll be a conversation. We're not saying that discipline has to always be violent, but it's knowing and understanding that you are the authority in that child's life. That they don't understand safety and not being safe. So when we leave decisions to them, they aren't able to parent themselves. So you have to know and understand that you have to do the hard things in your life. You have to see when your child is being rude towards you, and you may not want to deal with it there and then if you're in public. But when you come home, there's definitely a hard conversation that needs to happen, as in, you spoke to me in this way and I'm not happy about that. But if you're your child's friend and there's no boundary and you're just there as a support, we'll just go with the flow and see where this leads us. And, you know, as that child grows up, they know that they cannot rely on you because boundaries are safe. Boundaries, you know, I hated my mom as a child growing up because she was rock solid in her no. Her yes was yes, and she provided everything, but her no was no, and I hated her. And often we grow up and say, I'll never be like my parents. I was so unhappy as a child. But you know what? She kept me safe, she protected me, and she taught me discipline. That no had become my no to my children. And all I'm saying is when you decide as a parent, I'm not going to, I want my child to be comfortable. Parenting is not comfortable. It's leadership. It is hard. It is doing things you hate doing. Nobody wants to discipline their child. Nobody wants to say no. Nobody wants to say, I can't afford that.
Yeah, and it's being unpopular sometimes as well. You know, there's decisions that you will take that the kids will not like you for. But, I mean, there are certain decisions my parents took that I was absolutely angry over when I was young. And now that I'm older, I'm actually more grateful because I'm much older. I see the context. I see why they had to take those decisions. So does being raised by a pushover parent affect like a child's behavior and development in any way?
So I think there could also be a resentment from the other parent because you're playing good cop, bad cop, and the other parent automatically becomes the bad cop if they're disciplining all the time. So I think that one thing that could contribute to unhappy relationships. But in terms of your child, if your no is not strong enough and you're unable to sit in their discomfort, what you're saying to them is you can't be relied upon to make hard decisions. And curfew could be a good thing. You go to fetch your child for curfew and they just keep pushing the boundaries and saying, you're here too early, I want to stay. They decide to throw a tantrum and you give in. You have now let yourself down because you can never say curfew is this time. So what you're teaching them is that they don't have to ever conform. You know, all of us that have gone from homes where there was so much discipline that you absolutely hated. But when you got to school, you actually just accepted, hey, teacher's in charge and I need to get on with it. And when I was growing up, parent-supported teachers, as in if they step out of line, I don't agree with it, but you're welcome to discipline them. But there was that knowing that the adults, I can't manipulate the situation. And I feel like if your children are able to manipulate you at a young age, and they're very good manipulators, if you and your partner cannot agree on how to parent them and what you stand strong on, South Africa is unsafe. And if that child demands to go out and there's no way you can say no to them, you've taught them that no matter what happens in life, they will never be able to be disciplined. And, people are now struggling with mental health issues. But for those of us who grew up in healthy homes where no was just an answer, I wanted to go and, study further. There was no money. No was my answer. I found other ways to go and get training and whatever, and it does foster some kind of resilience in you. But if you pander to your child all the time and don't cry, let me just go and get you something, it's going to cost you in the end. The older they get, the more you'll have to spend.
And I wonder, because there are some parents listening to us now, Adele, who are probably thinking, yeah, but am I a pushover parent? What are the signs that parents must look out for in order to determine whether or not they are pushover parents?
Yeah, I think when behavior deteriorates and you are unable to say enough. I have a colleague at work, and a child was acting out, and she just said enough. I don't have a child who behaves like this. And I think you need to know and understand that when we say what you do is in the best interest of the child, is to uphold the boundary. If you decide that that child needs to go in time out, I don't believe in long time outs. But if you throw in food and you throw in a tantrum at the table just to pick that child up and say, okay, we're going to wait for you to settle down. Self-regulation is a big parenting must-have for us as parents because we get triggered, and for our children. So you're teaching them, okay, this is not acceptable at the dinner table, and you're saying to them, there's no violence, there's nothing, but no, you're not going to behave like this. So that as they grow older, they find language, okay? They find language to say, I don't eat this, I don't want that, and that is absolutely okay. But when you can't contain them and they're little, you won't be able to contain them when they become teenagers. And then it goes into them practicing risky behavior. Now you haven't connected to them. They're not attached to them, to you. They don't trust you because your no has never been no. So how do you now say to them, you're going into an unsafe situation? You won't be able to protect them. So you start when they're small. Okay, you start when they're small. Just that little bit of no. I've got grandkids and I just hold them. My grandson's about to be 2 and we were in the car on Saturday and he was putting his feet on wanting to put it on the window. I was sitting at the back with him and my son was driving. I just held him and I said no. It's your presence. Okay, you have to be present to your children and to say when I'm here, certain things won't happen.
Yeah, and Adele, sometimes, some people with their, some people call it woke parenting, some people will define it as conscious parenting. I mean, there are homes where you will be told no is not allowed in this house. So the kids are never told no. They always find ways to work around and justify why something is not necessarily preferable. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I want to raise children where they don't know that there are instances where a no will be used. And it's not just a yes house. I want to go to some calls now. Adele, please, on 011-883-0702. Let's hear from some of our listeners. Are you a pushover parent?
Sure.
Were you raised by a pushover parent? What has been your experience, and why do you think you're a pushover parent? Let's start with you, Saz. You calling us from Joburg. Good morning. Hey, Saz.
Oh, hi. Good morning. So I'm a self-confessed pushover parent. I'm a single mom, waited 40 years for this boy, and wanted everything, a kind of positive reinforcement. I struggle, as your speaker speaks about self-regulation, I struggle to self-regulate myself. But the village around me still wants to reinforce the negative kind of parenting. I rely on them, so I'm struggling to find that middle ground between positive reinforcement. I'm fine saying no, but then holding that boundary is a major challenge for me. And then eventually I just thought, you know what? Okay, let's figure this out together, but do what it is you initially wanted to do. So, and if I don't do that, I go into what I was taught, the kind of violent, kind of negative discipline, which then has me and him both crying. So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, how do I self-regulate first and then teach him to self-regulate and then bring in my positive kind of discipline that I'm so hell-bent on creating?
Single parenting is hard. Yeah, so
it is.
Single parenting is hard.
Yeah, and I just wish maybe sometimes there was just a university for us to go to be taught about parenting. Saz, that's a great question you're asking. Thank you so much for calling us from Joburg. Adele, go ahead.
Yeah, parenting is very hard. And the reason I joined Kids Haven in 1994 was for parenting training, because I knew the way I was parented wouldn't work for my children, because I just got divorced and was a single parent. So I want to say being a single parent is hard, and you do need to choose your battles. Having said that, don't cry in front of your children when you discipline them. It's not a nice thing to do, but you hold strong. You're the adult. You must be able to take it. And what I would say is start practicing no with very, very small things. Don't go for the big things. Go for the small things, because there's a lot of guilt around parenting. There's a lot of shame. Am I doing the right thing? You're saying you're surrounded by your support group with the negative parenting. Your child will always remember your voice. Okay, you must remember that you are their conscience. So what you say matters. So timing is important. You don't want to do it when everyone's tired. At 6 p.m., when bath time is happening and he's cranky and you're tired and supper still needs to be made, is not the moment. So maybe choose your battles and choose your timing. And also, I found that sometimes an iMessage is better than discipline, as in I was hurt by that, and then you give your child an opportunity to speak about it. And I think when we come from communities where its children were seen and not heard, you don't know how to listen to them because nobody listened to you. And those are the patterns we're needing to break. But remember, there's no roadmap for us. And I think that is one of the things that I battled was there wasn't a roadmap for me to say, hey, I'm doing it so differently. I allowed my children to date. It was unheard of in my family. So you have to decide what is it you want to instill in your child. What are those values? And keep speaking those values and noticing when your child is doing something right. Hey, I saw that and I really, really like that. Thank you. You listen to mommy. Thank you. You always want to draw them back to you. And I want to say keep going as a single parent. And remember to always, always have fun with your kids. Find moments to laugh. Find moments to just do crazy things. Take a blanket and go to a park and have a picnic. Find those moments, because that is what memories are made of. Your child will remember that.
Yeah, some important points you're raising there. Thank you for that, Adele. We're going to take the latest in Eyewitness News headlines shortly, and when we come back, I've got some wonderful voice notes that have come through from parents who are sharing their experiences. I see a lot of them are saying that, they are pushover parents because they're trying to undo how they were raised. So it's almost like that feeling of guilt as a parent, because you were raised in a particular way that didn't really clearly work for you. You are overcompensating now for your own kids. You end up being a pushover parent because you're just so obsessed with just wanting to parent your children differently to how your parents parented you. But that can lead you to being a pushover parent, and that has its own consequences. Let us know your thoughts. Keep those WhatsApp voice notes and calls coming. I'll start with them after the latest bit.
702 Family Matters.
All right, it's 11:33 now. Let's start with your calls on our Family Matters feature. Following the headlines, we've been asking you about pushover parenting. Are you a pushover parent? Why do you believe that you are a pushover parent? There obviously are various reasons for some parents to fall into that trap of becoming pushover. Sometimes it's due to guilt, like we've heard. Sometimes it's due to fear or exhaustion. You just don't have the energy to really respond to what the kiddies are raising or what you have implemented around them. So it really can get tricky. What is it for you? 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702.
Hi, Clement, Ali here. Yeah, I can admit to being one of those pushover parents because of what I went through as a kid. I went through so much. It was painful for me, so I don't want my kids to go through a painful ordeal. So their crying just sends me to a point where I let them get away with anything.
Clement, I trust you well. Another reason we have pushover parents because they're confined in children things they shouldn't confine in them. And a child now knows things she shouldn't be knowing. And that weakens you as a parent because a child thinks you are a friend to him or her. It's problematic.
Hi, Clement. A great show. So I love this topic. And I wanted to share, I volunteer in a youth church in one of the local churches. And one of the observations that I've made is how children of parents who are pushover parents or absent parents, I would even say, how resentful they are of their parents, and would really caution parents about what you may think is good cop parenting, that often leaves a child feeling lost in the world and quite resentful of having to either parent themselves, or often having to even husband or wife their parents, in situations where the parents have split up, for example. It's really, really tragic to see these teenagers who are just hurting. Yeah, thank you. Great topic.
Yeah, thank you so much for your WhatsApp voice notes. Adele?
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot. So I want to go back to Ali, the second caller, and say you have to heal. You have to go for counseling. You're going to have to, I think everybody needs personal growth courses, but especially when you are pregnant and going to become a parent, because you need to go through your own attachment suitcase, and I always say our parents did the best with what they had. They had no clue about counseling or therapy or a parenting workshop. And I think we are more conscious because there's so much access to information. Even this 702 is doing really great with these parenting talks. So you have to heal your pain. And when you heal your pain, you can forgive your parents because we need our children to forgive us. We're not going to get it all right. Okay, we are not going to be perfect. So you need to heal. You can't give in every time your child cries because that's the little boy in you. You now have to become a man, deal with your past, and then be present to your child and say, I'm going to stand tall and strong and tell you why. You know, the other day I was visiting my daughter and the kettle was boiling. And I thought to myself, my grandson is about to be 9 months this month on the 23rd. This child is so observant, and the kettle boiling so close to him is not a good idea. And I just walked with him to the other side because children are curious. Now imagine if I thought it was where permissive is anything goes. You know, your child wants to pick up the kettle, oh well, you know. No. It's a red flag. There is steam and there's a baby. He could get hurt. So I had to move, and that is what parenting is about. It is you anticipating the crisis that this child could land themselves in. And you now bring in the building blocks to say no. So during your ad, there were the death of 2 kids. Okay, that devastates me. That devastates me. Because I want to say, first of all, please walk with your children when they go to the shop. Don't leave them to go on their own. Secondly, say to them, children are dying from buying these snacks. Then send them to school with snacks. We cannot not know. Okay? We do know. We need to be proactive as parents. The third caller, you're right, we do confide in our children, and that shows that there's a lack of boundaries. Your intimate life is not your child's business. You fighting with your partner is not. Please do not burden these babies with your dysfunction. There has to be clear boundaries. Do not bring them into your mess.
And speaking of boundaries, Adele, how much of this behavior stems from parents wanting to be their child's friend rather than their authority figure?
Yeah, and I think it obviously you wanting this child to side with you and be your therapist and caregiver in terms of how your spouse is treating you. Listen, it's got nothing to do with them. Don't tell them anything. Keep them innocent. It's your job to keep them innocent. Because if you don't protect them, how do you react when somebody else violates them? You know what I'm saying? As in giving them too much information or showing them something that they shouldn't be seeing. You know, that should raise such rage in you that somebody has the audacity to take your child's innocence away. It should anger you.
Yeah. And what about, like, for parents who perhaps have been lenient now for a while with their children? If they're realizing that, listening to this conversation, that, oh, I've been too lenient on my child, how do they then start setting boundaries without causing conflict? Because a child will see that, oh, this is different. Like, my parent is taking a different approach. Why does she hate me so much suddenly? Why does he hate me so much? That this is not how I'm parented, how I'm used to things. So what's your advice for parents who are realizing that I've been too lenient and I need to change tack here?
Yeah. You know, the real test of love is discipline. It's a real test of how much you love your child. And I work with children. I love children. But boy, oh boy, when you've crossed a line, you can be sure we are going to have that conversation, or I'm going to tell you. Because that is love. When my mom was disciplining me, she has allowed me to have a career. Imagine if I could never take no.
I'm telling you, I would never be on 702 today. You would never know me. I wouldn't be a Kids Haven. I wouldn't know and understand the pain that children are going through because adults haven't stepped up. There are adults who have stepped up, who are exhausted, who are crying. And then there are adults who just thought, oh, well, I still need to be partying. What about me? What about my love life? Let me get married 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. Let me have a child here, and when it doesn't work with this woman, let me just go and have another baby. You have no idea what you've done. You have no idea of the pain that you are causing. Children sit here. One child said to me, as she was going into a panel for her family, and I'll never forget that she was sitting on the steps at the center that we have in Cranbourne Avenue, and I said, what do you want to ask your family? She said, I want to ask them, when I'm not there, do they miss me? You know how heart-wrenching it is to listen to children say these things. Another child had said to me, I don't sleep in my mother's house. How does she sleep? It is the honor of a lifetime to have a child. So don't take it lightly. Don't think that they are little things that must get on with it. They are reliant on you to become the best that they can be. You give them wings. You pray over them. You speak over them. You see the best in them. Because those children that you're spoiling, nobody wants you to visit. When you go to somebody else's house, you are a nuisance because you cannot say no to your own child. Okay? It is unacceptable that parents think that this is okay. I'm also sorry that there isn't parenting training. Home Start has closed. I phoned them and asked, do you do parenting training? And I've tried to phone Childline. They don't do parenting training. There's a need for parenting training. I've done Connect training, attachment training for teens, fantastic. But there's also common sense and building a support structure for yourself. The fourth caller, thank you for volunteering at a youth church. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We need people like you who are able to observe what is happening and be a safe space for children who are lost. It is up to the responsible adults to say, there is a problem, I am going to step in. I take my hat off to you. So thank you for that. That makes my heart happy.
It's 15 minutes now before 12 o'clock. We're going to come back with some more calls and WhatsApp stuff.
Sure. 702 Family Matters.
All right, 13 minutes now before 12 o'clock. On our Family Matters feature this morning, we've been discussing how to guard against being a pushover parent. Are you a pushover parent? Why do you believe you have become a pushover parent? Have the kids started taking advantage of it? And what have been the consequences really if you were raised by a pushover parent? There's some voice notes that have come through on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Clement. Morning. Clement, my no is a no. My kids know that Papa does not play. No is no. We don't negotiate. Once I've said no, I've said no. I don't change my mind. And I'll say spanking, not violent parenting. I'll say spanking in instances where they do things that could possibly unalive themselves. There, I need to teach that there are consequences in life, and you cannot just go around doing dangerous things and expecting no consequences. So I do have a little slipper or a little belt where I say, if you do something that is possibly dangerous to you or your sister, I will punish you. So that you need to learn that lesson that in life you cannot go around doing dangerous things without any repercussions.
Look, me, Clement, I'm a pushover. I don't mind the silly things. Me, I am a pushover for sure. If I'm making tea, someone wants a spoon of sugar, I just give I have 4 of these toddlers around my home. Just you can imagine, 10 years, 6 years, 4 years, and then 2 years. So when they cry for sugar, I give. They cry for this chocolate, Shoprite, I buy. Whatever, I'm a pushover. They play in our room sometimes. My only daughter will play a pop in our room and mess up our room. Before the mother comes, I clean the room and I'm a pushover. But when it comes to other things, I'm not. Yeah, they know. But I can be a pushover a lot of things. Yeah. Case in Kakhas.
And well, Clement, thanks for the show. My question to your guest is, I'm co-parenting with the mother of my child. See him twice a week. And then every time when he comes up, there's boys where the mother of my child stays. There's boys around 9, 10, 11. So he picks up like F words, S words. And then I do tell the mother of the child, say, hey, man, can you please be strict and stop doing that thing to say, you're doing this, I'm going to tell daddy when he comes, you're doing this, I'm going to tell daddy. Can you just help me discipline the child? And me discipline the child doesn't mean that I don't love him and I don't want him to be free. But in the same mind, I'm thinking if I discipline him too much, will he be as free as he is with his mother, but with the responsibilities? Thank you.
Yeah, that can be a tricky one, Adele, hey? Like,
Yeah, very.
when you are co-parenting and then there's the other parent who's more lenient and soft, and now you don't want to be seen as like the so-called evil in the family.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for parents who are co-parenting, who also just want to be loved? I mean, all parents really want to be adored by their kids, but sometimes the decisions you take can put you at odds, especially on the other side, they're treated differently.
Yeah. I mean, children swear because they don't have a big vocabulary, but I think maybe look at increasing their child's vocabulary. So instead of a swear word, what other word could you use, and make it fun? So if their child wanted to say something, let's find alternatives, or maybe their favorite phrase of a popular TV movie that they, watching at the moment. Write it down and say, in our house, instead of these words, so you won't put, we'll call them little bombs. Those little bombs we're going to turn into these words. And so when you were dead, these are the things we're going to say, because it's not about criticizing your partner. You don't want to get into that. You want to say, in our space, this is what we do, and you really just giving that child a bigger map. So I love reading to kids. I love vocabulary and all their things. I just want to go back to your first caller about spanking the kids when they're in danger. And maybe also just have a conversation about why they're choosing unsafe things, Speak about your own fears, because sometimes we spank when we're fearful. My fear is that you would one day get in trouble and I might not be able to reach you, because now that child has an understanding that he feels fearful when I'm in danger and he wants to protect me. And then I love the pushover dad who just admits he's a pushover when it comes to sugar and the dolls in the room and things like that. You don't think there was too much harm, but you don't want to be giving kids so much sugar because that's going to hype them up. But I think we all are pushovers to a certain degree because these are our children. We look at the landscape of what's happening in South Africa. We want to keep them safe. We want to, we do want to protect them. They have access to social media. You don't want them to feel pain. That is normal for anybody you love, but draw them to you. If you attach to them, if they can come to you and say things to them, never ever say to them they're lying. I was with my son the weekend and his mom-in-law was saying, don't ever say to kids they're lying. So those little things we can learn from each other. So when I came to Kids Haven, Moira Simpson, the founder of Kids Haven, who I think is the epitome of motherhood, I learned a lot of my parenting from her. And for her, it was constant talking, constant
reinforcing of good behavior, just being available to your children. So we don't want to guilt anybody, you know.
Yeah. Here's another WhatsApp voice note that's come through.
Okay.
Morning, Clement, to your crew there, and morning to your wonderful guest and everyone else who's listening. Clement, I couldn't agree more. The guest is spot on. She's so right. I mean, we as the parents, some of the decisions that we make and our lack of discipline, they have repercussions on the upbringing and the future life of our children. Clement, you know, one thing that I have noticed that we as parents do, you'd find that you don't have limitations on what the child should watch on TV. They watch every other program that plays on TV, which is not right for them. I mean, I want to support her when she says we are taking away their innocence. I mean, for a child to watch people making out on TV, I mean, what is that? What are you saying to the child?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
Thank you for... Yeah, you can come in there, Adele.
It's a hard one. And, you know, even the fact that we are on our phones all the time, we give our kids permission to be on any kind of gadget. And when my children were growing up, during the holidays was the worst time because I had to watch every movie with them and go to bed at 11 o'clock because now there's no curfew. School time curfew is 8 o'clock, you go to bed, and I get some adult time. But during the school holidays, I had to watch everything that they watched. And those little practices will come back to you in the kind of people your children will become, because I guarantee you they're going to leave your house. Somebody was saying what you do with one generation already will count 3 generations from today. And I really want us to forgive our parents and be present to how we parent. They really did the best that they could, no matter how they hurt us, no matter what we went through. And I'm not speaking sexual abuse. It's unthinkable. It's not okay for kids to be molested in families. But I'm saying the discipline in our family, when my mom smacked us, we had to go back and kiss her and say, I'm sorry. It was the worst torture. It was the worst torture, but now as adults we can laugh about it. But I'm saying let's not forget that we are resilient. We have become the people we are because of those no's, because of those discomfort. Never think your children don't need discomfort. Everybody needs discomfort to grow, you know?
Absolutely.
You want to be proud of them.
Let me just wrap up with some of these messages that have also, the texts that have come through. Someone says here on the WhatsApp line, hi Clement and the guest. In Zulu we say, Ligochwa, lisemanzi. In other words, discipline our children at an early age. The way I grew up, wrong is wrong, right is right, still applies to my children. I know we should love our children, but teach them the difference between right and wrong. And then another one says, Clement, good day to you and your guest there. Thank you for the topic. I feel that I'm that pushover parent and I try to be firm, but the boys push till I give in to their request. Their dad speaks once and they listen. Very relevant topic on my birthday. Thank you. That's a message there from Anonymous. Happy birthday to you, Anonymous. Adele Pillay, life coach and parent trainer. Thank you so much for really guiding us through such an important topic. It's now 2 minutes before 12 o'clock.